Okay. Let's talk about absenteeism as part of sociology. Okay. What is an absentee? An absentee comes from the word absence, all right, from work, from school, or any social setting, all right, in which regular attendance is a normal expectation. Rates of absenteeism are sometimes taken as an indicator of the well-being. So here, can an absentee affect the well-being or otherwise social organizations, whether you're in a work or school or social setting? Can it have an effect? Yes, it has an effect. So it is an indicator of well-being. All right. What is an absentee landowner? When I say that you own a land, this is a landowner. So when you have an agricultural land, the owner of an agricultural land lives away from his property and is not directly involved in day-to-day production within a peasant society. So the absence of the landowner here, all right, shows the indirect involvement, that there isn't a one-to-one relation with the production. There isn't a direct involvement to the production within a peasant society. So a peasant society is a farmer's relationship with his land. The farmer could rent other peasants to take over the land, and here the landowner becomes an absentee. So this form of land ownership can be conducive. All right, and we have to learn the word conducive, all right, to the appearance of social and political conflicts. This can create conflicts within the long run. All right. And it can create here conflicts also, political conflicts between the landlords and peasants. It can also create social conflicts between the landlords and the peasants. All right. And for an example here, we have the pre-revolutionary France and pre-revolutionary China, the French Revolution. If you go back to the 18th century, or you can just read the famous novel of Charles Dickens, Tale of Two Cities. It talks about the pre-revolutionary France, okay, and all the foreshadowing that the revolution is going to happen. All right, so this shows the absentee of the landowners when the marquis used to own the land and used to leave it for the peasants. Hi, hey. So let me just tell you here what we're doing here. We're actually talking about the complexities and the boundaries of society, all right, through sociology. And this happens entries here. When we create entries here, we have to see what entries do we have for complexities of society. So the complexities of society, like an absentee landowner, this goes back to boundaries, society's boundaries. And there are not weak points. No, they are disciplines. These boundaries are disciplines that are wide and difficult to draw. And sociology here is a general science about bonding between groups, bonding between society, and what conflicts we have. And we also have the different classes, the differentiation of classes. So when we talk about lay society, the subject matter here starts to get controversial. When we talk about peasants here, when we talk about landowners as nobles. So there's a conflict here, or a controversy between peasants and nobles. And we create here disciplinary disputes. So these complexities are not weaknesses. They're not conflicts as weaknesses, but they are strengths that builds a society itself. So when we go to every entry, all right, every entry here, or every term in this dictionary, is a compiler. All right, it's an indicator, all right, about these complexities and how these complexities create problems which build the society. All right, so we have here problems here that take over as inclusion and exclusion. And what concepts do we have? What criteria do we have so that we can manage here these sociological terms? In certain areas, major sociological terms and topic areas have been central. They have been central, as a matter of fact, that it was the center point of how a whole country can create a revolution. So it is currently important. It's currently important, much more important than minor sociological terms. So these entries here, do they need to be studied? Yes, they do. On other social science disciplines, including key terms, all right, these terms have achieved wide use within sociology. So here, when we talk about sociologists, these entries on the most influential sociologists and entries on major social theorists and philosophers, do they have an influence on the subject? Definitely they do. And definitely they have disciplinary links. All right. Why? Because it's all based on research methods. All right. So including here basic statistical terms. When we say that it's all based on research, it's based on statistics. All right. And this is how philosophy is shared through sociology. It has a huge link between them. So the entries on the main research methods used in sociology as terms we share in philosophy is a selection. It's a selection of common language. We have to find common grounds on what terms are we going to build a society on specific terms through these entries here. So they are futuristic. So let's go back to the landowner and see how the landowner here had an impact. So when we mention here absentee landowner, an owner of agricultural land had conflicts. So if we go back to the French Revolution, there were political conflicts, social conflicts between the landlords and the peasants. This is true, and this is based on history. Did that really happen in China? Yes, and this is what foreshadowed the Chinese Revolution. So here, this is a conflict, but did not act as a weakness, but it shaped society. Let's look now at another entry here, which we have poverty. Absolute poverty, and you find that a level of poverty here is defined in society. It's defined in terms of the minimum, but it could be the maximum of society. All right. We also have the other term here, which is absolutism. Any regime, any discipline, which is political discipline, is regarded as absolutism, in which rulers are unrestrained by custom. They don't follow custom. They don't follow the rule of law. So they are here unrestrained, means they don't stick to the law. So it is a political regime. All right, then the question is here, how do they exercise power? Their exercise of power is arbitrary, it stays fixed, but not going by the law. And here, the doctrines justifying such a regime, the doctrines here, of course, as the philosophers, as the followers that are following the regime here, they support that. And the specific state form related doctrines such as the rights of the kings. And again, if you go back to the French Revolution, you will find that they didn't go by the law. They didn't go by justice. They went by their own way of power. So was the French Revolution here done as a result of absolutism? Yes. So this shows how power here was completely arbitrary. All right, this was associated by the divine right of the kings, and it could be also the divine right of the Pope in churches. They took arbitrary power too. And that's why revolution happened. So if we go entry by entry, you'll find that it answers many questions here in relation to history. And we get to know how society has been built. What are the basics of society here? So let's see other entries here together. Kind of interesting. So here we have abstracted empiricism. When we're talking about the 17th and 18th centuries to European monarchies, European kingdoms, all right, we're talking also about Marxism. And Marxism is a form of Western European state that precedes the capitalist state. It comes before the capitalist state. And here in reality, no ruler possesses absolute power. This is part of the illusion here. It doesn't have actual power, doesn't have total power, doesn't have entire power. Maybe could just illusionize that to the government or illusionize that to the supporters. All right, so the conventional view or the traditional view has been that absolute government, that we are in the tradition that the government has absolute power, but it never tends to happen completely, realistically speaking. So, as a feature of pre-modern or non-Western states, for example, the Turkish Sultanate or Fijian monarchy, however, although arbitrary power and the social mobilization of subject populations, for example, the building of the pyramids, were a feature of such regimes, the lack of modern technology of communication and surveillance meant that effective power was often severely limited. So here we have another example of community and how we build society in sociology.